please welcome to the stage Sheena Agarwal, Karen Little, and Karin Woodruff.
Is this on? Okay. We've been taught how to use these mics. I'm going to do my best. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for joining us today in this conversation. I'm very excited today about our conversation on innovating the global crisis response model. I'm Sheena Agarwal, Chief Partnerships Officer with Myriad USA. And first, just a few things to set the stage before I introduce our speakers today. First, Munir, thank you so much for having us again this year. Really, the partnership is something that we value dearly, and just creating a space for this kind of conversation. I think it's been mentioned a couple times. We do feel like we're in quite unprecedented times. This week in particular has been quite trying for a lot of organizations, the nonprofit sector as a whole, climate groups, and I think we're just living in a state of constant crisis as the new normal. So having conversations like this, thinking about crisis management generally in our personal and professional lives is just becoming, I think, part of the conversation of the everyday. So before I get into the details, just a quick note on Myriad USA. We are a public charity based out of New York, and we support donors, whether corporations, foundations, individuals or advisors to donors on international giving to anywhere in the world. So last year we supported nearly 800 international nonprofits across 89 countries through 169 million in philanthropic giving. And part of our larger body of work is really also to mobilize philanthropy during times of crises, so during disaster events or protracted humanitarian crises. And one of the models that we've developed to that end is a network of pre-positioned and pre-vetted organizations that can receive funding immediately across 6 continents because we saw a need to kind of balance speed, localization, and risk in a way that really supports local communities. And as we were building this model, we knew that we wanted to create more conversations about how best practices are being done in this space and create conversation that will help share lessons that others in this space are practicing. So I think, generally the mindset is that we can't do this work alone. Partnerships are key, and we need to do better in the crisis response space. So to that end, we're going to have a fantastic conversation today. We have 2 leaders in this space that come from companies who are doing fantastic work when thinking about how to strategize and to do crisis response work. And so to just introduce the folks, we've got Karen Little, who's with PayPal and the global lead for rapid response. And we have Karin Woodruff, who's the Senior Vice President for Community Relations at Wells Fargo. And thank you both so much for joining us today. Just to jump in, because I know we've got a few minutes, Karen, we've talked a little bit about the work that goes in behind the scenes before a crisis happens. So, how has PayPal really built models and strategies to be ready to respond to a crisis, also knowing that no 2 disasters are the same? So how do you stay flexible and prepared at the same time?
Yeah, thank you, Sheena. Thank you, Engage for Good. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here for this session. It's a topic many of you know that I'm very passionate about. I am kind of a disaster geek. So what I will say is that over the last 5 years at PayPal, we have really evolved how we approach disasters. We used to be fully reactive, and it was stressful, and there were all of these urgent calls, and everybody was kind of losing their minds. And now we have a structure, and we've added some, specificity to how we do this, while holding that this still needs to be flexible, that it's preparedness, not perfection, and that our new normal is not stable. And so, I'm curious, can you raise your hand if in the last 5 years you have had an urgent call about something going on in the world, like anything, like COVID, Ukraine, LA wildfires, it goes on, executive orders, it goes on and on, right? Like everyone's hands are up. It's just, we all need to become, I think, experts at this. We're all rapid responders. And so, I'm really glad we're talking about this. So the way PayPal has approached it is that initially, like I said, we were reactive. What we did is, after the murder of George Floyd, we realized we needed to get more specific. We were not just responding to natural and climate-induced disasters. We were also responding to man-made, humanitarian crisis, social justice. And so what we did is we expanded the types of disasters that we respond to and what we call a disaster. And so that was the first step. And then we took a look at, well, what does PayPal have? What can Venmo and PayPal do? We have payment processing. Like, it's inherently kind of boring, honestly, but like what it can do and enable is very cool. So to give an example, like with Ukraine, we were able to turn on the ability for people in Ukraine to receive money via PayPal. We did that in 9 days, something that usually takes 9 months, and that has led to billions and billions of money, P2P, person to person, to go to people in Ukraine. Like, that's using our product in a really inherently beautiful, good way, right? And so essentially we looked at our menu of interventions, what can we do? We looked at what are our guiding principles. So for us, it's speed, it's consistency, and it's impact. Those are the three things, because we know and we all know this in this room, the sooner you can get your campaign up, your call to action in times of crisis, the more money you're gonna raise, right? So that, and then impact, we want to look at how are we supporting hyper-local orgs and the national and the global. We do both. So it's by design, always a combination of both. We also identified our key stakeholder groups, so employees, customers, and the company. And so for all of you, whether you're at a nonprofit or you're at a for-profit, you can be thinking about these things, right? Like, who are our key stakeholders? What are our guiding principles? What is our menu of interventions? What role, like what are our core capabilities? What can we strategically do? And from there you can design, we designed a scorecard and we have levels, level 1, 2, and 3. And I will tell you, we all know this, no disaster is the same, but at least what's so nice is instead of all of that incredible stress that can come up when there's a crisis, we can say, we got this. We're gonna assess this based on these criteria, and I can usually do that in an hour, and then I can let our executives know that this is where this comes out as a level 1 or 2 or 3 for our employees, our customers, or the company. And at those levels, these are the interventions. And it just kind of like helps to do that. And so what I want to say is, what I would encourage everyone to think about is when you go back to work on Monday, like do it now when we're not we're always in a crisis now, but like, but before the next LA wildfire, before the next thing, like just do it on Monday. Just do it. Just, find me, email me, I'll help you. I'm serious. Like just do it now so that you have something you can root into. We're not powerless, and we don't have to let these things overwhelm us. So anyway, I could keep talking, but that's the gist.
Yeah, I think you just opened yourself up to 600 emails coming your way. So just be ready for that on Monday. Karen, I think similarly, how's your strategy built at Wells Fargo? Do you resonate with some of the things that Karen has referred to, or do you build your strategy in a different way? And also, if you could speak a little bit about both the short-term immediate response as well as the work that you do long after the headlines fade and staying in those communities.
Yep, thank you. And great to be here. It's beautiful faces. Wells Fargo works a little bit differently. We have a national disaster focus, and we use national partners. So annually, we work with American Red Cross and T. Brumicon, congratulations on your Nonprofit of the Year award. But we also collaborate locally. So wherever the disaster crisis is happening, and that would be my role. So my role is on the ground. And I have a philanthropy strategy that's connected to the company, but I'm working with my disaster team. So when disaster strikes, it depends on where and how and the scale. And if it's a Wells Fargo, core market, how many employees, how many customers, and what is this? Is it a hurricane, a tornado? Is it a fire, a flood? We do humanitarian in small doses, and we do it in both global and national opportunities and events. But because of the relationships that we already have, disasters are not the time to make new friends. Philanthropically. You will make lots of friends because you're working side by side, but it really is that team effort. When disaster strikes, Wells Fargo will often be immediate and urgent needs. quickly. So we partner with American Cross. We're getting food, shelter, first responder help out the door immediately. And we can do that because we've already prepaid all that. Then we're working collectively on the ground with my leadership, with our comms teams, with the national teams, and stakeholders, and what's going on in the ground to see what the appropriate response will be. A small fire, typically we're not going to be doing more than just an immediate response. Large initiatives like earthquakes, hurricanes, flooding, the LA fire, it is a long process, and we're not done in an hour. I know you're not either, but it's weeks and weeks, and you were on phone calls, and you were in core groups, and you were talking through what is needed 24/7. So it is all-consuming, and so it depends on the disaster. Initially, we'll do, like I said, that immediate response, and then we start looking at long-term recovery. And then long-term recovery, Camp Fire, hurricanes, LA wildfires, we'll be building that into my strategy on the ground for years. So it becomes part of this bigger plan. So immediately it could go 50,000 to a disaster. It could go 2 million. It could go 4.5 million. And then you aggregate that over time with partners that you are working with on the ground to affect things that we care about.
And kind of going off of that, knowing that you also have physical Wells Fargo offices, you've got employees, I mean, you've got business interests in a lot of these communities. How do your employees and staff and offices kind of feed into the work that you do? And if you could talk a little bit just about aligning that business purpose with impact strategy and where that kind of comes together in crises.
Well, I mean, we're a bank, so if crisis hits your home, your car, your small business, your finances, you're all using a financial institution to use one of those things. So our ground teams, our leaders, our banking leadership, they're all focused on helping customers. And by the way, our employees are affected equally. We've lost homes in the fires, and so we want to make sure that we're stepping alongside. And often I become a, not now, hang on, hold tight, because people want to jump in disaster. So they want to volunteer, they want to get involved, they want to help. First things we do is financial. Get the money out, calm down, see where we don't want to tax an already taxed system. So we really want to be mindful about using those partnerships smartly and thoughtfully to be able to react, and then put our teams in a position to show up. Safety first, and then we move along. So part of our structure is using our existing partnerships, food banks and small business development corporations, to offer the stuff that we do well. We offer financial education. We can work with FEMA and SBA to resolve some things, home mortgage. So we get folks together to understand what their resource needs are, and then we move from there. But we often are stepping with long-term recovery teams to do the recovery and the relief efforts for months to come.
Yeah, and similarly, Karen, you don't have necessarily banks, but you've got offices, you've got employees all over the world. Can you talk a little bit about how PayPal aligns business purpose and strategy, and also just maybe you can give an example of how the domestic and the international space is a little bit different, and if that changes the way that you think through how you're going to respond and what goes into those decisions?
Yeah, for sure. So one clarification is that the assessment takes an hour. The implementation takes sometimes years. So I just want to clarify so nobody thinks it's only 1 hour. But
she's that good.
Yeah, it's like I'm very good, but I don't know if I'm that good. So let's see. In thinking about a couple of examples, so PayPal's global. We're all over the world. We have employees in over 17, 18 countries. And so an example of, we can use that framework I mentioned for things that happen in the US, and we can use it globally. So the difference is that if we're doing something globally, I don't know in Manila, in the Philippines, who are the best responding orgs for a specific type typhoon or hurricane. So I will work with the managing director of our office in the Philippines and their team, and also just like tapping into local partners. So I think that's like one example of how we'll, it's the same model, but it's just slightly different. We'll also work really closely with our government relations people. So, something that I think is just so important in all of this is doing this work together. And whether it's international or domestic, I am working so closely with my corporate peers and my nonprofit partners throughout the entire process. So my dear friend Malia is here from Salesforce. She and I co-chair the Tech Sector Disaster Working Group. It's only tech, it's only corporate, and it's Google, and it's Amazon, and it's Microsoft, and Uber, Airbnb, PayPal, Salesforce, and we have a WhatsApp group. And so that's like a neat tool that we have to come together to figure out how are you responding, or are you responding locally? What are you doing, for the LA wildfires? How can we work together? So I think I just want to make sure to highlight that as we are all doing this work, to make sure that you are deepening your networks now. And I appreciate what you said too, Karen, that like in the moment of a crisis is not the time to develop the new relationship. The time is right now, and sometimes those relationships take a year or 2 or 3. I come from nonprofit. I was at the American Heart Association for 5 years. I was at Kiva for 10 years. Now I've been at PayPal for 6. So I've done like both sides of it, and like sometimes it takes years of relationship building, and so I just wanted to highlight that as well. And I guess one last thing I'll say, whether it's for a place like the Philippines or Los Angeles, we're thinking about strategic disaster philanthropy. So we're thinking about what can we do now, what can we do during, and what can we do after. So how can we partner with, like, an example is Axion Opportunity Fund for the LA wildfires. We just supported their Rebuilding LA fund that focuses on small and medium-sized businesses, which is what our strategic mission is, to your point of your question. And then also we partner with the International Rescue Committee for rebuilding. We provide loans to Afghan and Ukrainian refugees who are in New York City who are trying to start or grow a small business. So that's like the continuum. And so I just wanted to highlight that too, of like making sure we're thinking about the before, the during, and the after.
Yeah, and you already hit on this, and so to continue the conversation on partnerships, I know there's a lot of nonprofits in this space today, and we've mentioned many times that this work doesn't happen alone, that the timing of partnership development is really important to creating successful work together. What's your advice for nonprofit organizations who maybe are trying to navigate this and understand how to better partner with corporations?
Yeah, I think, what I'm seeing more and more of is that it is ideal if there's like a, concentric circles that are overlapping. Like those examples I gave of IRC and Axion, they not only are doing disaster response, but they're also doing SMB. They're doing both. And so for you, like overlapping with several, like how can we like really do these comprehensive, meaningful partnerships that aren't just about the immediate, and again, like figuring out ways to develop those partnerships over the long term is something I would definitely encourage everyone to think about. And also like how can, even in the nonprofit sector, can you also have like a disaster working group? Maybe you already do, but like something like what we have for the corporate tech funders, like I think that's really helpful too.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I would just say, we're talking about collective impact, and that is what you're striving for. You're finding those partnerships and those niches, the things that you do really well, and then connecting with organizations or entities that you've seen are working in tandem for anything, whatever it's a disaster or an event. So we have stood up community foundations. We've stood up Together for LA, which is all around small business, and we did that outside of disaster, knowing that this is going to keep happening. So when you build that collective, that collaborative, you can react more quickly. So it's not Wells Fargo going out and trying to save the day, because no one can do this alone. It is now that you have city, county, state, nonprofits, corporations working in tandem to address certain things that are needed on the ground. So partnering with like United Way or American Red Cross or Team Rubicon, ask them, hey, who do you work with? How do I get an introduction? Partnering and collaborating outside of that will lead to stronger relationships down the road.
I love it. And we're down to our minutes, so I know we're probably getting a time flag somewhere. But I think we can wrap up, and if I could maybe just summarize a little bit of the key takeaway is really, this work starts on Monday. if it hasn't already started. You've got two great experts here. Three of us would love to talk to anyone who's interested in building strategy around this space and just learning from some of the tools and models that we've developed. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Karen and Karin, for your insights today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful conference. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.